Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Cam Wade, and you have reached the Commercial Roofing Radio podcast show. Today, I have a very exciting, interesting, and near and dear, close to my heart guest, and a dear friend, Chris Guarnera, who we served in the Army together, U.S. Army military police officers. I'm very proud to say that I got to serve with this gentleman, and it's been a really cool experience getting back in touch with you and learning more about what you're doing. And that's why we're bringing him on the show today, because I think he has so much value to offer the commercial roofing radio viewership out there, all you guys and gals who are looking at technology to help make your job easier every single day, safer, and make sure that you're getting the right data to the right people in a very timely fashion. So I just want to welcome Chris. Thanks for coming on, buddy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I am so happy to finally reconnect with you. I know it's been a few years, but I reached back out and I was like, hey, man, I think I got something. We should definitely talk. And you've been very welcoming. And yeah, man, I remember Cam back in the day. He was definitely a very funny one. And then it's not surprising in any capacity that he is now taken over in this space and kicking butt like always. So good to reconnect.
Well, yeah, for sure, brother. And I appreciate you bringing me into your world. And it's just crazy how life works out that way, how you just never know how, especially when we get in transition from the service into something that we care about. It's a tough thing to do, to find purpose, to find, meaning, something that's impactful, that transition. That's a very tough pill for a lot of soldiers that are transitioning. And I know it was for me, and I found, my passion. I've been able to stick with this industry for a long time. And it's just so cool that now what you do and what I still do, it just integrates so well. And we're going to talk about that now. Chris, you are owner operator of Blue Falcon Aerial, correct?
Yep, that is correct.
And if you haven't heard about Blue Falcon Aerial, they're a really neat drone technology educator, innovator in this space, and it's only growing. And what they're able to do, and I think what you guys are doing to sprinkle your genius and your process and the technology into the commercial roofing space. I think that's very important, especially from my eyes, how when I see what you can do and what the technology can do, it's pretty quick, pretty cool. And you had me out and invited me out to the Francis Tuttle Technology Center in Oklahoma City, which again is just another huge piece of what Blue Falcon is doing. And if you don't know what Francis Tuttle Technology Center in Oklahoma City is, Google it. It's incredible. I got to spend a half a day on that campus, and just looking through the different classrooms is just incredible. It blew my mind. I came upon actually they were doing a forensic data collection for, it looked like a crime scene, and it was really cool. And then and then another room is a part of a jet, a private jet where people are learning how to build sheet metal and form it and all that. It was just really cool. And we will be uploading and editing a video as we speak, and doing another visit to the Francis Tuttle Technology Center, because there's just so much there, and we did not even get to unpack everything that's there. It was raining the biggest part of the day, so we fought through it, of course, and we got some really cool stuff done. But I wanted to make sure we had this opportunity, because you can explain things in a way that I just can't. So if you would just give me little bit about, give us all a little brief, or take as long as you want, we got forever, how you came upon Blue Falcon and what you guys are up to right now. And I've got a host of other questions for you too.
Yeah, of course. So in short, essentially what we do is we integrate drones into businesses. That is at the core what we're here for. We've been in this space for the last few years. We see how impactful and just how revolutionary these sort of devices are, and what they can do. And so the drones are really cool, but that's just part of the equation, right? Anytime you can integrate geospatial data into something, and you can integrate things like artificial intelligence as well, it really opens up some massive doors. And I'm sure, Cam, you can attest, like when I told you it flew itself, was I wrong?
No, no, you weren't.
It's cool. All right. Like
It
legitimately,
really
these
is.
things absolutely do fly themselves. You can do it. And our entire mantra right now, our entire business model is based on the fact that these things have evolved to a point where they can, should, and will be in every single uh, truck that is used by professionals in any industry: construction, roofing, landscaping, insurance, risk management, any of these fields. There's so much potential, and it's at that point where it just makes so much sense that it should be integrated. And our what we're doing is we're essentially helping these businesses take that first step. Going from 0 to 1 is the biggest challenge. Once they have started to move in that direction, then it just opens the floodgates on everything else they're going to do. So there's a lot going on. So yeah, but how we got started with this, I actually, me and Cam were in the same unit way back in the day. I went to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City as a federal police officer. So I worked with the Air Force at an Air Force base as a civilian, and it went really well. However, at some point, they wanted me to pick a career path. Either I was going to have to stay Army Reserves or do Air Force full time as a civilian. I didn't want to make a decision, so I really liked what I did with the Army. I liked having those soldiers. I liked integrate. I liked taking care of troops, and that was something I was really, really big about. So I decided that I was going to leave Tinker and go find myself a new pathway. And one of my buddies hit me up and was like, "Hey, dude, you want to come fly drones?" I was like, I don't know, man. I gotta have a job. Like, this is not really what I want to do. He's like, no, come on out, see what we do, and come do cell tower inspections with us. Okay. So I went out with him, and I went to West Virginia on our first project. And honestly, it went horrible. Like there was so many issues with it. The weather was bad. We did not make money, but I saw it. When I saw him fly these drones and the data he was producing and the models they were generating, and I was like, this is clearly what I want to do. And so as soon as I got back home, I put my 2 weeks in. I bought a truck, bought the equipment. I let my wife know I was doing it. She was supportive, thankfully. And, that's what I've been doing. So for the last 3 years, we've just been hitting very hard in this sphere. And first with the cell tower inspections, then we moved on to LiDAR. Then we formed Blue Falcon and brought some of my friends together. Most of us vets, we all came together and built this company. And we did the data processing and data capture for a long time, and we recognized that the next step in this process is bringing everybody else on board, right? All of these different companies, these organizations, et cetera, they should have drones integrated with what they're doing. And the tech is phenomenal, and it's just one piece of the puzzle. But when you integrate drones with terrestrial units, when you integrate mobile units, when you integrate fixed wing aircraft, and you integrate satellites and merge it all together, you can do some really, really, really cool things. And so what we do is we essentially help businesses identify what's going on, and just bring these things in there, because there's so much value that can be added on day one.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a lot to unpack, man.
Yes.
And luckily I did have me some questions pre-planned because I can easily get off track because there is so much to touch on with that. And again, I was overwhelmed down there when I visited you at the Francis Tuttle Technology Center. And real quick, before we delve into these questions, I do want to make sure, because I think it's really important, that one small piece, which is actually a gigantic piece of impact that's, it's handing out to the community. It used to be really hard. I was, up until I hung out with you, very, because I've crashed a drone before, and, they can get expensive, as you know, and I didn't have the confidence because, it's, it's not like it. It's not as in my brain. I just didn't. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was, and so I shied away from it. And I always allowed other people to utilize their abilities. And it left me, when you have to rely upon someone else,
Hmm.
it takes power, it takes action, it takes execution away from you. So being able to go down there and really see proof is in the pudding. Within minutes, you had me flying that drone,
Hmm.
programming it, getting it up there, mapping everything out, its path. It was so easy that it really did empower me that, like, I'm buying a drone. I can't wait to start flying. I'm heading out to Arizona and then Colorado for some big, um, you know, commercial properties that I'm going to be inspecting, and you can bet I'm going to be flying my own drone out there.
Good.
And thanks to you. So let's touch real quick, not real quick, but again, let's touch on this before we delve in deeper.
Yep.
Uh, what are you guys doing out at Francis Tuttle? And just explain to us how easy it is and how um, financially easy it is to get there and to get some really cool training. I mean, it's a 5-week course?
Yeah, so Francis Tuttle's an incredible institution, and so just to clarify, Francis Tuttle reached out to us. We have a business in the area, and they reached out to us and said, "Hey, we're building a drone program. You guys are known in the area. Can you help us?" And honestly, I didn't even know what Francis Tuttle really was. I knew they had a few buildings out here. I knew like it was something to do with education, but I didn't fully understand. And when we came out here for our initial meetings and had those initial consultations, I got just like you did. I got to see it, and I'm like, wow, this is actually really cool. And then when I talked to Nick and Trey and these guys out here, and they were telling me about their vision, and their vision is not to just provide licenses for people and tell them what a drone is. They wanted to really empower people with the skills and the applications to get jobs in this sector. And so they're not doing, well, they do have very small courses that just like very focused on like Part 107 and, applications of the industry. But like our first course is actually doing a 5-week course over working for surveyors. So specifically producing data that is survey grade accurate, so that you can work in a surveying firm. And this is not easy. I mean, if you're in that field, you understand like a surveyor has to go to school for a lot of years. They have apprenticeships and things like that. But that industry is actually aging out. There's a lot of surveyors who have too much on their plate, and they are trying to hire drone pilots to fly equipment for them so that they can produce properly georeferenced data. The problem is drone pilots don't know how to talk to surveyors. They don't know how to produce data that can be used by surveyors. And so what our team is doing is I have my co-instructor is a surveyor, and he is teaching the ground control, the survey side of it. I'm teaching the flying a drone side of it, and then we're spending the last 3 weeks just going out and producing georeferenced data in a variety of different aspects and things like that. So, really, really neat. But the goal here is they can take what we're doing here, go straight to a survey firm, and get a job with that survey firm. That's the intention. And so what Francis Tuttle, what they're really big about is they want to provide the skills so people can actually go out and get actual careers in the real world. So it's an incredible opportunity, and this is just the first of many courses. I was talking to Nick today, actually, like, we have a lot of really cool stuff being planned, a lot of really cool partnerships. Just bear with us and really follow along, because we have some really, really awesome opportunities that are coming down the pipes, not just in surveying, but in a variety of other industries throughout the world. And it's pretty phenomenal what they're doing. And the cool thing about this is I didn't recognize this. I came from an actual like regular Oklahoma State University is where I got my degree from. So for them, you have to enroll, you're there for a 4-year program, etc. Like there's a lot of money involved. Francis Tuttle, you pay as you go. You legitimately go in there, pay your money, and you take that one class, and then that's it. There's no additional requirement. And it's not
That's
much.
awesome.
It is really, really cool. So you go in there, you're like, all right, cool. Today I'm going to learn how to, or not today, but next 5 weeks, I'm going to learn how to fly for surveyors. And then you take the class and then you do it. like that's so cool. And like I didn't know this was even an option that existed when I was going through my post my post high school education. I definitely would have done something like this instead of blowing all my money at a proper institution, right? Like this is
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really cool that you can just you don't have to worry about the other noise of, you know, required classes. Like, hey, I want to
Yeah.
learn this focus and that's it and I'm out. That's
Mhm.
really cool.
We actually have some of the people in this class that don't even have pilot's licenses yet. They're just going to take the class and they're just going to figure it out as they go. Great. We'll make it happen. So we'll go at their own pace. Be able to process all the data, and there's no attendance tracking or any of that. It's just straight up come in here, take what you can from it, use the skills, and then go in the real world and make it happen. So pretty
That
awesome.
makes sense. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing with that with us, and I'm definitely coming back down for some more time because it's just really cool. Again, if you want to know more, just Google it. Francis Tuttle Technology Center. It's in Oklahoma City. It is a very
Yep.
cool, big campus. They do multiple different principles that all have technology that are just wrapped within it, with aeronautics, criminology, forensics. It's really cool, and they're expanding. They're building more on that campus in the future,
Yep.
from what I
And you
understand.
just went to
And,
one campus. Make that very clear. You just went to
oh,
one
that's
campus.
right,
There's
dude.
4 of them out here. There's so much. It's really, really awesome. I'm very passionate about what they do, and I tell everybody. So come check it out.
That's cool.
Seriously. Yeah.
For sure. Excuse me while I am down in my Coke Zero. Sorry. Well, let's
It's all right.
real quick for the ones that, because I know a lot of commercial roofers that do utilize drones all the time.
Mhm.
It's a part of their daily SOP, as it should be. But then there's the ones that do not at all. And why don't you just give us a little explaining of the basics of how drones equipped with lidar, thermal imagery, technology, how it's revolutionizing the commercial roofing industry, as well as just about every other industry.
Mhm.
It's really making a huge impact. But commercial roofing, let's talk about that. How's it impacting?
Yeah, for sure. And I actually did some market research before I went on this video with you. So I went to a few different Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, and alignables and things like that. And I just simply asked a question: are you using drones, and in what capacity are you? And it was pretty interesting. Most people are either not using drones at all, or they're just using it for marketing. Good start. Okay. Like that's a good start, but you're missing an entire aspect of this industry. So, marketing aspect is great, and you can definitely produce some really good before after shots and use it for Facebook and things like that. But like the resolution on some of these cameras, you can absolutely see damage on those images, and you can use those images to essentially close more leads and just show the client their roof. And it's very quick. It's very easy. You can generate 3D models. You can do the thermal assessments and see see any sort of water damage or any sort of heat loss issues. The LiDAR side is definitely a lot more expensive than a beginner drone, but there's a lot of applications with LiDAR as well. But for the most part,
Yeah.
just standard photogrammetry, standard imagery, you can produce so much incredible data and detail just with that. Like the drone that Cam was flying, it was a 4K resolution, and the data that it produces is phenomenal. I know the telecom industry is using them very aggressively right now, and they are able to see all the cables and all the labels going into all the arrays, it looks up into the arrays to see all the different cables and labels and things like that. You have really high resolution zoom on these things as well. I have one HVAC company I'm using right now, and they're using a drone simply so they can have the drone fly up there, zoom in, and read the data plates on the HVAC units. Like, that's what they said. They're like, that right there is huge for us. So they'll go out there, take a
That's
picture of the
huge.
data plates, and they don't have to get up there. And the data is phenomenal, and it's not just about producing better data. That's not really the biggest issue. It's the speed, the efficiency, and the safety aspect, right? It just takes one fall. Like I think roofing has so much potential because the less amount of times you have to actually get a ladder, the less chance of having a catastrophic fall and then losing your source of income. Like
Mm-hmm.
these drones, they may be expensive, but for what they can provide you and the risk mitigation it provides you, it's invaluable. Like you can't even put a price on that. So
Yeah.
there's just so
I
much you
can,
can do with them.
yeah, I could tell you, man. First off, I've been roofing the biggest part of my life. I've been climbing on roofs my entire life. And then being in the army, rappelling, faster, all that stuff was some of my favorite things I've ever done on this planet. But something happened, maybe fatherhood or just, surviving too many near deaths and really realizing how precious life is. That all of that
Mhm.
accumulates to. I still climb on very tall ladders today. Now granted, I'm mainly on gigantic commercial roofs, which hopefully and usually most have, you know, access, internal access hatches and stuff. But also when you talk about multifamily, they usually don't. And I get freaked out. I'm not gonna lie. That's probably the biggest anxiety I have anymore is climbing up a 25, 28, foot ladder, which most of the time, the multifamily you're gonna need to. And there's just so many variables that you can't control the you know how the gutters are hanging if they're loose, all the different things, the tie off points. Do you have any? And it gets scary. So I'm so glad I came down to relight that fire to belief that I can do it. It's not too technologically, it's not too cumbersome. I can do it, and I need to be doing it more. I'm 43, and and I've been, like I said, far too lucky and blessed. So adding some smarts and some intelligence into my equation is just what I need for this point in time in my life. So flying a drone is going to be just a huge part of my adaptation moving forward. you know what are some other you know explain to me, what is lidar? Like, what does that even mean? I know, can it see through trees?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Let me go back real quick on one thing you mentioned though. So on that aspect, something that I have to work with roofers a lot is whenever I work with them, they're like, "Hey, we're waiting for a notice to proceed before we go on a roof." Yes. However, that's why you have a drone. And so that's one of the funny things I have to get past that point of like, you don't have to actually have that notice to proceed because you can just fly and be off that site. Like that's not an issue. So it's something else to consider. So I just love having that conversation. So yeah, all right, back to lidar. Lidar is awesome, and that's what we really focused on with our company before we switched over to this role. But lidar is a light detection and ranging. What it does is it sends out a beam of light and it measures the amount of time it takes to return to the sensor. Okay, so it measures the speed of light. Well, the speed of light is
Science.
300,000 kilometers per second. Okay, it's able to go out there and measure how long that return is within in like incredibly small an amount of detail. So you're able to get somewhere between 2 and 5 centimeters of accuracy with each one of those measurements, and so you're getting an actual measurement of a point on the earth, right? So and then the sensors that we use, it can be between a quarter million and 1.5 million pulses of light per second, like just boom, right? Huge amounts of information. And so what you're doing is you're
That's
able to
crazy.
go through there and get accurate measurements on the ground, a million plus measurements as you're going through and scanning an area. And it's incredibly accurate. So with that, it's what's called an absolute accuracy. So if you have photogrammetry, if you're taking picture here, right on the ground, you're still going to have some estimations of that overlap, right? You have to have a lot of pictures to make really good determinations of what that measurement actually is. So there's a lot of distortion that happens. Well, this is a point measurement with extreme accuracy. So it is absolutely accurate every single time for every one of those measurements. And the technology is not new. Okay, this was actually back in 1960s during the Apollo missions. They actually had lidar measuring the moon. That was part of the thing that they were doing out there. So like, it's nothing new. But the big thing about lidar is that it's progressed to a point to where now it can drop. It's so small it can now fit onto a drone. So really phenomenal in that aspect. It's been used in the it's been used heavily by fixed wing for a long time. It's been used on the ground for a long time, and now it's become small enough and light enough to go on a drone. And the great thing about a drone is that um, from a fixed wing aircraft, if you're sending out 250,000, a million points per second, but if you're at like 10,000 feet, you're still going to have a very wide dispersion of where those beams of light are at. On a drone, you're going to have all of that data on a very low altitude, and you can get extremely dense information in that one section. And so from an aircraft, you're getting somewhere between 10 and 20 points per square meter of detail. From a drone, you're looking at 600 to 6,000 points per square meter of measurements. Wow. It's just absurd. And so it definitely does have a lot of use case in the roofing industry. The problem with anything that has to do with LiDAR is you're looking at a lot more money, and that's the biggest issue with it, because LiDAR as a whole is a very expensive technology. But it has dropped down in price substantially over the last few years. So at this point, it might actually have some use case for your specific projects. Now, the other cool thing about LiDAR as well is people like to say it sees through trees. Not entirely, okay? Instead, what it does is because you're sending so many beams of light down at the ground, you are having an occasional beam of light that is able to penetrate in between the trees and in between the branches to hit the bare earth underneath it, right? So although 95% of the beams of light are hitting the top canopy, if you're sending 1 million beams of light per second, you can essentially remove all the vegetation layer, and you can get a bare earth layer as well. So LiDAR, wow, because of that specific aspect of it, it's being used a lot in the Amazons and the Amazon rainforest, and also down in Mexico and things like that. They've been discovering a lot more Mayan runes that are beneath the really thick vegetation. So really, really cool technology. It does have some use cases for this industry. But I caution people too much on LiDAR, because for the most part, photogrammetry and standard imagery is sufficient for what you're doing, and it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's also jump onto thermal imaging. Yep. You know, that I've used a lot, and I know a lot of our listeners use thermal a lot, whether it's interior or exterior upon a roof. You know, it can be particularly telling about a roof's condition. Can you discuss, you know, how this technology helps identify potential leaks, insulation issues, you know, before they become, you know, major structural issues?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things we're doing right now. I would have my thermal drone with me, but it's currently being used. We're doing a large scale mapping of some large areas up in the Tulsa area right now. And what they're looking for is they're trying to find any sort of heat variances. So as the temperature changes, they're trying to see what part of the roof is changing temperatures quicker than others, right? So you're able to see structural damage, any sort of water leakage, any sort of intrusion, any insulation faults, things of that capacity you can use for thermal imagery. I know whenever you looked at the images that I showed you from that rooftop, I was learning from you on this, because you were over here like, you know, you have this and this and this, and you were able to take so much data from this. And that's the cool thing about this is I have a lot of different technologies, but like you're the expert on what you're doing. And so I can just provide you those resources for you can do those sort of analysis. It's really cool. I know one of the things I love doing is taking the drone in the air, and as it's in the air, you can see the temperature variances in real time, but you also have a side by side of RGB, so you can see the regular light, and then you can see the infrared right next to each other. And so because of that, you can make an immediate assessment of what you're looking at, because you have both sides of the spectrum you can transfer back and forth for it. And
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. And then the other thing as well is you can actually click on the screen, and it will tell you a point analysis of the temperature of that specific location.
That's right. I saw that. It's so cool.
Is huge, right?
It is, man.
This is all really, really cool stuff, man.
You could have somebody, you know, inside and you have a radio, like, guys, you know, AC unit number whatever, however you have it mapped, and they could be there, and that's where the leak is. You cut
Hmm.
down on so much time, manpower, and you're just executing and finding a solution so much faster with providing the correct data at the right time, and it's usually right then when you're there.
Yep.
And we were talking about the applications. It's something that I'm always talking and pushing contractors when they ask me how do I get into the commercial roofing industry? How do I, from the residential side, how do I get leads? How do I, get into these relationships? And I'm always trying to nudge them into getting, what we call master service agreements, being able to offer, something that most people aren't doing, and that's providing, consistent, real time information and data of the current condition of these properties. And
Yep.
it's huge when you're battling against the insurance carrier in a gigantic multi-million-dollar claim, and the insurance is trying to say, oh, that's old damage, or that's where, whatever it may be, whatever excuse they're using. And you can provide a year, 2 years of historical data, of thermal imagery, every little bit. It's so impactful. It just
Hmm.
brings victories to the policyholder, to the contractor so much faster, and it's just a really good source of truth that you can rely back on. It's historically there forever, and it's time stamped, and there's no getting out of that one.
Hmm.
And with technology just getting easier and easier for you to push a button remotely and someone just just go do its mapped out scenario. They're doing it
Hmm.
with agricultural, with everything. And then you mentioned it earlier, insurance carriers are using drone technology now. They're going out
Yep.
and doing pre, during, and after claim data collection their own. And
Yep.
so you better, if you're not using it, you need to get on the ball with it. And I urge you, go check out these guys. They're doing some really cool stuff. And we talked and we dipped a little bit about it, but safety, it's a huge
Hmm.
concern of mine. I've had people on my teams when I was a roofer actually die and fall off roofs, break femurs, and it's just scary. And like you touched on it earlier, when you lose your, not just your source of income to feed your family, your life possibly. And so
Yep.
safety is being a huge concern. Um, you've utilized it, with flying towers and stuff. You know,
Hmm.
how do you see that getting more and more a part of just the biggest reason why you should be using drones?
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard to not see the value. You'd have to be pretty blind to not see how not having to climb a roof as much will lessen your chance of severe injury or death. Like it's very clear. And I was talking to one of my roofing buddies out here actually last week, and he mentioned just taking a drone and he can do multiple house inspections with from a single vantage point. So he can go
Hmm.
out there and just do a scan and try to see where are the potential issues at and focus his efforts on that. So, but he's used to going up there and marking everything. And there's a lot of artificial intelligence you can use now that, again, we partner with that can go out there and actually annotate all those major um, potential issues. And you can take that to a client without having to get up there with your chalk and things and mark and everything. So there's a lot of value. And the other thing as well is like pictures worth 1,000 words. So if you have that data and you can take that drone, capture the detail, generate that report, show the client right then and there and say, this is the damage, this is your house. Or even take that client outside with your drone and they can see it with the drone. Be like, oh, you see right
Hmm.
there, this is where you have it. Like, there's a lot of this you're still going to have to get on the roof for, obviously, but you can minimize the amount of chances you have of falling by not having to get up there every single time. I think, especially in the leads in the sales process, there really isn't much of a reason to get on a roof for the most part. Um, you know, uh, do all of your filtering and lead gathering from the ground, and then you can properly tie off and do what you need to do when you actually have that client secured. So
Yeah.
And that's what I
Yeah.
see. I think there's a lot of opportunities here, but the safety factor is massive. Cell tower industry, that's why we rotated to it. They don't climb towers anymore unless they are going to do some work. That's it. They use drones for everything because it's just so much of a risk issue. And also, a climber can only climb maybe one or two towers a day. When I was doing cell tower inspections, we were able to generate entire models of towers, and we were doing between 6 and 10 towers a day as a single person. Like, that's just unheard of. So there's clear value. The risk factor is huge. The efficiency is big, and you can just really take that data and present it. And you don't even have to you can't argue against high resolution detailed imagery that's on a live feed from a drone that's at above their house.
Sure. Yeah, and like you said, it's one person can only do so much. And
Mhm.
I know contractors, especially if it's a storm area that got hit, they'll do a whole neighborhood. They'll they'll generate, and of course they use other technologies, so they get everyone's email address as well, and they will either do a presentation in person or they'll send them a report. Look, this is your roof. This is the damage that is up there currently. This is what it's going to cost you to get it done. Um, and call this number or take a picture of a QR code and let's get this thing rolling. Make it so much easier for people to say yes
Mhm.
when you provide such an illustrated, you know, story
Yeah.
of where they sit. So it's just huge, and for me, on huge properties too, and we're talking commercial properties, um, being up there for hours on end doing your inspection is exhausting. It blinds you looking up there, especially if you're on a TPO roof, or a PVC and it's white and it's just reflecting all of that. Um, there's so many aspects and reasons why I can't wait to start utilizing a drone. What do you see as far as technologies that are either going to be improving, getting smaller, getting cheaper, anything coming in the technology world of drones that is going to be even more revolutionary?
Yeah, there's so many different things, and the big frame shift, like the big mind shift we have to move from is drones are a tool, a part of a larger ecosystem, right? So it's one tool that you can use. The big thing here is geospatial data. And that is the important thing, geospatial data. So it's not just drones; it's integrating the cell phone data, integrating the terrestrial scanners, right? You're integrating, like, using an iPad to get measurements. You're integrating fixed wing aircraft data that you can already generate, or satellite imagery. It's everything combined, but all of a tool is one of the many things that you can use, but or the drone is one of the many tools you can use. But the drone, the great thing about it is you can use it as little or as much as you need. And you hit it on earlier, like, the speed of which you can deploy these drones is phenomenal. And you can just put it in the air and get the data that you need, and you can integrate it with whatever different softwares and programs you're already using. Um, Artificial intelligence is so wild. I've had several conversations this last week, especially once we had our last video. I just went ahead and was like, I'm going to learn everything I can about the roofing industry. This thing is so cool. And so I went out there and touched base with about 10 different companies that exist out there right now that do different sort of AI integrations for drone, or for roofers, and either getting measurements and automatic estimators and using satellite imagery. Or one that was really interesting is what they do is they can fly over an entire neighborhood and they can point out different houses in that neighborhood that do need work just by plugging the data into an AI. To me, that's wild. Like, that's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or using the drone to get high resolution cameras on those roof sightings, and you can identify all the different spots on those roofs that need work. And there's so many opportunities out there. It's really, really cool. It really is. And um, just start having those conversations, and just don't be too stubborn on the technology. I know, like, a lot of surveyors, they refuse to use GPS for the longest time, and Then they refused to use LiDAR for the longest time. And now it's gotten to the point to where every surveyor is using LiDAR, right? So it's just one of them things to where be ahead of the curve because these tools exist. They're cost effective. They're efficient. They reduce your risk. Just be in the know and just really follow what's going on in the industry.
Right on. Well, what would let's say today, if you're out there,
Mhm.
commercial roofer, and you're looking to not just get educated, but to really learn how to integrate drone technology into their process when they call Blue
Mhm.
Falcon, what can they
Sure.
expect? What would
Yeah.
maybe that roadmap look like?
So the thing about us is we what that would look like is they would contact us and we would have an initial consultation. And that's completely free. I'll make that very clear. And it's just talking about your individual challenges for your business and trying to get a roadmap of what you need. So we don't have a pricing tier or structure or any of that because everything is dependent upon what you need as a company. Every company is different on that side. And then once we have those conversations, then we can essentially generate you a plan based upon whatever you guys are looking for. Are you trying to do software integrations? Do you want to just purchase drones for your own marketing or to do it internally? Great. Do you want to actually build out your own processing team internally? We can help you do that. Are you trying to just hire more drone pilots? We have a network of people that we work with who can go out and do it for you. Do you just want consultations? Do you want us to teach you how to fly? Like, what is it that you're looking for? And we can essentially tailor our solution to whatever you need. But we partner, I mean, we are partnering slash partnered with a lot of different companies in this sphere. And I'm trying to really immerse myself in this sphere. So, we're not selling you a product. We're just telling you about every solution that exists in the market, and then you pick and choose what you think makes sense for you. So we're very, it's an open conversation. It just starts with that, just contact us so we can have those talks.
Awesome, man. I think
Yeah.
it's important. Like you said, there are a lot of really great technologies, brands, and companies out there within the roofing industry that are, bringing some cool things to the plate. And you guys are, able to join forces. I think it's just smart, and it's going to, be another really great tool to offer commercial roofers out there, as well as, anything out there that you need to get eyes on that's far, that's high. Definitely drone technology. It's rediscovering history as we
Yeah.
speak. It's bringing old stories to light that, oh, those were actually real civilizations. Or, it's doing some magical
So
stuff.
wild.
Just imagine what it can do for you on your roof, on your projects. And, you know, again, on gigantic commercial, and that's one thing I'm always on. I work with a lot of really great roofers that swing for the fences. They've got great processes and they get on some gigantic projects. And those can take so much time. And when talking about not just, using that data to achieve a victory with the insurance carrier to prove, yes, they do in fact owe for this damage because of XYZ, whatever those reports and those modelings can render, they're incredible. And it really paints a story and tells a story that cannot be, brushed off as hearsay or whatever. It's true. It's the source of truth. You can see through pretty much walls. It's incredible. But let's talk about uh, adding in, again, you talked about it earlier, the sales process. When we're speaking about a gigantic commercial building and those uh, owners, those property owners, the property managers, um, the people who just manage and run the facilities there, they have a lot to think about with finances, with, those buildings are living, breathing organisms. And if closed up a wrong way, if air's let out, a certain way, it costs so much money. So being able to show them all the different data points and to understand what they mean, you can also, you can help them forecast how much money they're wasting in their HVAC units, how much their HVAC units are overworking, and how much that's going to cost them by picking a particular roofing material and doing compare and contrast. I think it's just so. It's if you're not using it for your sales process, you silly. but also too, timing. I'm going to do a backflip. The timing of droning, just like with taking photos, you can't always control. If someone's like, get you on the roof, or it used to be like, man, I got to get up there and take photos. But sometimes it'd be high noon and be terrible time to get photos because you couldn't see the definition. It's just, you know, timing is huge. But let's talk about droning at night. And I think it's so important. And you showed me that one that you did at night, and it was just, man, it just made a huge difference from doing it during the day. Everything is
Yep.
so much cooler, and it just really pops when you're having heat bleed or cold air bleed. It's just
Yep.
incredible. So talk to me about that. And how do you do
Yeah.
that? Is it safe? How do you even, you were showing me a website to even get clearance. How I didn't even know you had to do that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of regulatory issues you need to make sure you're complying with when you are integrating drones into it. So anyone and everyone who uses drones who are listening to this podcast, they're going to need to have a commercial pilot's license. Okay, there's no way to avoid it. It's required. So good news is it's really important information. It really is, and it doesn't take that long to do. All right. I decided I was going to be a drone pilot on a Monday, and I became a drone pilot on a Thursday. I tested out. Okay. It's not that challenging, but it is going to require some work. Now, as far as the actual regulatory information, you're going to learn all that information when you are going through your training. Check out the FAA's Part 107. That's the actual guideline that really talks about everything that encompasses this sort of industry. But you are able to fly at night, but you have to have certain requirements. You have to have a 3 statute mile beacon on there so the aircraft can see what you have going on. A lot of the smaller drones don't have that, so it requires an additional module to attach to it. Not a big deal. Just make sure you do it right. You're gonna have to get clearance with the FAA on flying in certain areas. But Cam, you were there. How hard was that?
Dude, that was so cool. It was so easy.
It was cool, right? Like it's not a
Yeah.
big deal. It really isn't. But you need to go through those steps to make sure that you're flying safely and legally, because we are in commercial airspace, and the risks are astronomical, right? So drones can and have hit fixed wing aircraft and helicopters that have been flying, and fortunately we haven't had any deaths yet, but like there have been some very serious things that have happened so far. So a big portion of the test is just recognizing that, hey, you are sharing airspace with these pilots, and your drone can kill people, and you need to be fully aware of that. So that's a big part of it, is just making sure you have those sort of understanding and awareness. And there's a lot of ways to do it. I'm a huge fan of the education platform called YouTube. It teaches you a lot. That's totally viable. Obviously, I would be very remiss to not mention that we have a Part 107 class here at Francis Tuttle, right? Obviously, there's a lot of other great programs as well. I don't think you need to spend money to do it, but if you want to, you're welcome to do so. But it's not that challenging, but everyone is going to have a pilot's license. That's how it is. The justification for that is if you are doing it for anything that resembles commercial intent, you need a pilot's license. So if you post something on YouTube that you generated off your drone, there's a potential of that being monetized, which means it does have commercial intent, right? So unless you are just flying it for fun, which if you're in this chat, you're probably using these drones to generate revenue, that it requires a commercial pilot's license. All right. So now to go back to your original question on nighttime flying, yeah, it's cool. I'm with you, man. It's cool, right? So it makes some really, really great shots. So anytime you're doing low exposure sort of captures, that means your shutter is open a lot wider, the shutter is open longer, which means you have a long exposure time, which does create some really cool imagery. So we flew that the dead of night, and the image we produced, it's really, really cool. I wish I could share it on here. I know you have a picture of it somewhere, but it's pretty wild. But the reason why we flew at night was for the thermal, right? So we wanted to make sure that we could catch the thermal and showing the change in how much heat loss was happening on that school. And I mean, you could see it clear as day. Cam, like, am I wrong there?
Dude.
Like, it was very obvious.
It's very impactful. I'd say you walk
Yeah.
into a board meeting where they're deciding what contractor they're going to be picking to do their $3 million
Mhm.
roofing project and what materials you're going to be utilizing or which ones they're going to be picking. And to be able to illustrate with a report with imagery like that
Yep.
and all those data points, dude, if no one
It's
else
cool.
in the room is doing that, they
It
may
makes sense.
more than, yeah.
It does make sense. And when you do 3D modeling like what we showed you, that's another huge value that you can add in that bidding process. Do a 3D model, put the work into it, get a high resolution, because the 3D models, like, sure, you can use other softwares to get measurements, but if you want something that really impresses somebody and shows that you really care about this specific contract and how you are going to provide as much value as possible, generate a 3D model, present it to them, make sure it looks phenomenal. And we can also, this is something pretty cool. I've partnered with a production studio here in Oklahoma City, and they actually will put animations into your models. That's pretty
Wow,
wild, right? So like if you want
dude.
to have like bulldozers moving or showing people working on the roof, you could actually do that and really just show that, hey, we put a lot of work into this. And that's what the one of the roofing companies we're working with here in Oklahoma City area is they're using it in all their bidding processes. They're generating full 3D models in the bidding process, so they have a higher chance of winning those contracts. And
Yeah, it makes sense. And then
it
also too,
does.
you're able to illustrate quite literally, like you said, with
Mhm.
animation, with
Yeah.
um that like, hey, insurance, or hey, whoever you're selling this to,
Mhm.
this is how complex the scope of work is going to be. When you're
Yep.
looking at sometimes just an exactimate, flat um measurements or drawing or even their three dimensions, it doesn't give you quite the scope
Mhm.
um, from when you see a real video and image, 3D image. It's just, and that you can manipulate that,
Yep.
and it's just really cool
It is.
to see in
And
real time.
and
And
you
I
can do a
think
lot
it's
of things with it as well for marketing. Like you can do a lot of hyperlapsing where this like the toy soldier moving around on the roofs. You can show it being torn off and put it back on with all the people moving around on it. Like you could do that with a drone. I mean, there's no reason why. If you already have the equipment, you can use a lot for marketing. Um, and then yeah, I mean that's a great way of doing it. And then also progress pictures. That's also huge, especially if you
Mhm.
are doing like a longer term scale. Don't just go in those board meetings or have those conversations and say, oh, things going well. You can be like, hey, let me show you everything we're doing and all the work being put in and yada yada yada. And you can use that in the sales process as well of being like, hey, this was a project we did beforehand. This is what it looked like after. Like, let's show a before and after photos
Yeah,
where that's not just like photos, but like a fully manipulable 3D model showcasing what you are going to do for them. And just a picture and a model is worth 1,000 words. So it's
it
huge. I
is.
think I think the sales, the marketing aspect is grossly underused, and I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think that's really where a lot of this is going to, and not just pictures and videos. Like there's so much more you can do with these things. So it's just a start. Good job if you are doing videos and pictures, but like we need to have more conversations so we can integrate more stuff.
Yeah, and I can't wait to link back up with you down there in Oklahoma City. And then I'm sure we're going to have multiple field trips where you and I are getting out on,
Oh
big
yeah.
projects. I'm lining some of that up right now just because I want to really show people what an impact this technology and how Blue Falcon Aerial is making an impact within our industry, and partnering up with other brands and technologies that we love and trust. I just think it's so cool, and that you're someone I care about and that I trust and are a source of truth. Man, that's just special to me, and I can't wait to just provide some more data, some more proof in the pudding, so it just draws more people to the technology, to the application, to weaving it into their SOPs with everything they do. And you touched on it earlier when communicating. That's one of the biggest things with any business, but especially when you're talking about big commercial projects, there's so many people that need to be in the know, from everyone on the board, from your project managers, from the insurance carrier, their adjusters, desk adjusters, field adjusters. So much is going on. And good news, no news, bad news. At least you're communicating. But if you can, like you said, and now with other technologies, I'm sure you're talking with these folks, they have real time access to these different SaaS platforms that they want to see a real time what's going on in my project. Well, look, they just uploaded a video of the flyby, and they showed material being delivered. They've got you can now show and prove to the insurance carrier, look, I've got 3 safeties on this project and you need to be paying up for it. We've got drone guys. That's another line item. A person out there for safety that's just flying a drone. That should be a line item, and you can add that in there. Is on these gigantic projects. If you can't tell me that having a drone flying almost continuously is not the safest thing in the world and can reduce so many safety factors as well as productivity factors. Are there any thefts? Is there any waste of material? Keeping the site clean, safe, especially schools, hospitals. There's so many things, so many people you need to make happy, and having all the information right there and in a way that it just blows their mind, man, you will just look like the biggest professional, and they'll want to keep coming back to you time and time again. So, man, too cool.
That's cool.
Well, brother, what do you have coming up soon on that you're excited about?
Oh man, I mean, the obvious one is we start the advanced aerial mapping class at Francis Tuttle. We start it in 13 days. Oh man, I'm excited about that. So that's been our big thing. It's a 5-week course teaching people how to be surveyors and or communicate with surveyors. That's the obvious one. I mean, that's been all of our focus, because this has been the partnership with Francis Tuttle has been such an incredible opportunity for us, and we share their vision so well, and we know the impact that this is going to generate across the entire sphere with a variety of different industries is just huge. So making that successful is everything that I really want to focus on right now. And then just having those conversations with anyone and everyone who wants to talk. I want to learn about this industry. I think the roofing industry, there's so many opportunities that exist. And by the small amount of conversations I've had so far, it seems like we got some work to do. We got work to do because the integration so far is not there, and we need to make it to where drones are everywhere. I see it. I see a drone in every truck. I see a drone on every single roof. The asset management style, like you're talking about, how just having a drone to where you can have those documented timestamps for each one of your inspections, like that's huge. Like, this is where the industry is going to. I just see it, man. It's really, really cool, and I'm just so excited to see what happens in the future going forward. But yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you, bud, and I'm excited to be a part of that, and just getting to document it, throughout this journey. I know you've already gotten to speak to a couple of my friends in the industry, and right in line with technology that you guys are up to, and I think that is going to be a cool connection there. And I know there's going to be some people that are going to start reaching out to you from this, and we'll continue to connect you guys with Chris. Chris, what's the easiest way to get connected with you?
Yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me is at info@bluefalconaerial.com. That's the easiest way. Send me an email on there. You can also go to my personal email at chris@bluefalconaerial.com. Either one's totally fine. You can also call us. I have my number listed on the website. I don't have it available right now, unfortunately, but yeah, you can definitely contact me there as well. Go to our website, check it out. Hopefully it all makes sense. But yeah, man, I try to make myself as approachable as possible. So please reach out. Let's have those conversations. And I really, really, really genuinely do believe that we can add a lot of value to whatever you're doing. Or at least we'll tell you we can't. I'll give you that promise. So
I know that, man.
I'll either tell you we can add value, or I'm going to say, hey, I can't do it. I'm sorry. You're that one roofing company that just doesn't have a use case for drones. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm waiting for it. So
Well, I
Yeah,
believe it, brother. You've always been just a squared away individual and a great
appreciate it.
leader of men and of yourself. Something I have a lot of respect for you. Um, and so anything I can do to continue to drive more people to be educated by what's going on with Blue Falcon, with Francis Tuttle, I'm going to do. You've always got a battle buddy in me, brother. This is probably
Appreciate it,
one of
man.
the coolest things to be able to reconnect with someone I care about that's got such a
Yep.
history with me. And we're going to do some cool things together and have some fun. Um, one
I'm
thing I did
excited.
want to, yeah,
I'm
you said
excited,
so
man.
that on the class that's coming up, you said that's the advance. How long is that advance
So it's a
class?
5 week course, 5 week course, 80 hours total, 4 hours, 4 hours a night from 5 to 9. Yeah, the math makes sense. 5 to 9, Monday through Thursday. And that's our initial one. But like I said, this is the first one of many. If you don't think I'm not, if you don't think I have a roofing specific class in the pipes, you're out of your mind. All right. Like this is something I also want to integrate. So hopefully I can actually train some qualified people who know how to integrate drones, go through our program, and then you can hire them out of our program as well. So things of that capacity we're also looking for. But the end state is this is not like beginner stuff. We're trying to take people and teach them the skills that they need to be successful in the real world, very specifically for different industries and applications. So, yeah, the first one's for surveyors, but if you don't think roofing is coming soon, you are out of your mind. So,
Yeah.
clear value.
It's huge, man. It's good. It's
Mm-hmm.
makes things so much better, so much easier, so much
Yep.
more impactful. I appreciate you, Chris, coming on, and I look forward to our future encounters. We're gonna have a lot of
Yep.
fun. I'm gonna learn a lot, and I'm gonna drone the heck out of this country. I'll tell you that much. In
I'll
part
be there
because of
with
you,
you.
brother.
I
I
got you, buddy.
appreciate you. Yeah. So, guys, I'll make sure to leave a link to Blue Falcon
Mm-hmm.
Aerial, as well as the info, email,
Mm-hmm.
and the phone number. I'll grab that from Chris as well after
Yep.
this. I'll make sure all that is within the comments. Be looking out for us, guys. We're going to have some fun. Again, this is Commercial Roofing Radio. I'm Cam Wade. It's my buddy Chris with Blue Falcon Aerial. And we're just going to take it by storm.
Sounds
Peace.
good, buddy.